Hey everyone, welcome back. Icon here. Thank you so much for checking out another episode of Esports Analysis. Today, we are hopping on board with SCUMP as he kind of goes off here. He does drop, I think it was 41. He definitely gets a 40 bomb. But with that being said, I will go ahead and say that over the course of this scrim, they are playing Toronto. They ended up going 1-4, so this was the only map that they ended up winning, and some of them were close, right? They weren't all blowouts. They definitely lost a couple, like 250 to 150, so this is kind of 2 days in a row where we've seen marginal scrims from Chicago, and I think they just get in that sort of routine, right? Where they win an event, and they're obviously not taking time off, right? The last time they won an event, it was like 11 or 12 days in between scrim days for them, and I don't think that had anything to do with why they didn't perform well, because there was so many role issues and whatnot with gun lists and stuff like that. So I don't want to say that it's not like they're not taking it serious or they're slacking off or whatever, because they're not. They are still playing every day, and they're scrimming, and the communication seems high, and the intensity and all that stuff seems where it should be. So I don't want to go ahead and I don't want to make that assumption, because they are playing every day, and just like we just talked about. So I don't know, I do think that teams are getting a lot closer, right? Over the last couple of events, we've seen that, where before there were kind of like three teams that are way at the top, and I think it still stands that way. I still think there are three teams that are best, but now we have so much going on in the middle of the pack that who knows from event to event what's going to happen. But we're getting totally off track here, so let's go ahead, let's dial it in, let's talk about the actual gameplay analysis that we see in front of us. So as we rotate from P1 to P2, Chicago did a really nice job of holding and getting time inside of P1 and holding the first little bit of P2. So right now Chicago's up by 10. They're not getting time at the moment, so it seems like they might spawn out right there. I was watching the minimap in the top left-hand corner. Let's see where SCUMP spawns. No, they still have that back spawn, but now with 12 seconds left, it's not going to benefit them all that much. But one thing I want to kind of point out is when we were just talking about Chicago spawn, there were 35 seconds left on the current hardpoint. And from 35 all the way down to like 7 seconds left, they didn't get any of that time. So that might have been a little bit of a wasted opportunity right there, because they had spawns, they had it cleared out, but it seemed like a lot of people were focusing on pushing out the chokes rather than somebody getting time, then allowing teammates to catch up and get the chokes. So I don't know, maybe just some wasted time there, but it's not going to hurt them in the end. As we go ahead and rotate over here from P2 to P3, it does look like they struggled just a little bit to get out of spawn. So there's 30 seconds left, so P3 is already halfway over, and Chicago just kind of got into the hard point. They did a nice job of slaying out, but that was a really nice job from Toronto of just locking off those chokes out of P2 and not really allowing Chicago out of that spawn. Let's go ahead. A lot of people are new to my channel, so let's go ahead. Let's describe that real quick, just because it's something that's integral to Hardpoint on this map. If Chicago is getting this spawn and they have control of P2, then as they're about to exit from P2 to go to P3, a lot of people will take this straight direct route, right? Now, of course, you want to have somebody go mid-map cut. You also want to have somebody go over towards P5, so that way you have a greater chance of getting out. There are even people, and Pristini's pretty well known from this. I've seen SCUMP doing it a few times, of going all the way to Cave West and flanking out from behind, because if you can do that, now you're set up for P3, and you have the beneficial spawns for the beginning of P4. So I don't think we saw that on that rotation there. But the way that you counter that is that if you're Toronto and you're going to be aiming for P3 here, rather than sit in P3 if you have these back spawns and just get kills as Chicago enters these lanes here, what you do is you push up and you get chokes in these areas, right? Because if you can get kills in those areas, then for every team kill you get out that far, that's just like another 15 or 20 seconds that you're adding to your time inside the hill, because now Chicago has to reset and try to get through those choke points again. So what we just saw right there is it took like 3 or 4 times before Chicago could go ahead and get out of their spawn. So really nice job there from Toronto of at least getting the first half of the hill. As we're about to rotate here with 3 seconds left, going from P3 to P4, we'll see what happens. SCUMP is playing this position here, and you'll see this a lot. SCUMP is playing here in the hopes of getting a pinch from behind. In fact, at their last event, SCUMP did a fantastic job of making this happen. They got some really valuable clutch points here because he was able to just sneak through and pinch from behind. Let me go ahead and let's describe that also, just because that's something that I don't know, it's kind of a tactic that you probably don't see very often, but Chicago finished off P3, right? So as they rotate from P3 to P4, they come back through P1, kind of through Cave East, and they hit it from B-Dom, right here in the middle. So as they're approaching from these spawns, they're trying to hit from here. What you're seeing SCUMP do is, again, SCUMP did this in the last tournament. I forget who it was against, but it was a really awesome play. He came through, and right now he's just patrolling this area, right? Because he knows that Toronto is spawning down here in this corner. So if Toronto gets through, so say they're spawning here, they get through, they're inside P4, and now there's all sorts of contested battles going on up here. If they get through, then that's when SCUMP pushes forward and pinches them from behind. So now, as Toronto's in hill, shooting people that might be coming from mid-cave, SCUMP pinches from behind, gets kills there, and that's just something we've seen him do a lot as of late. He's just been picking up that role, and of course there are other people that do it. I've just noticed him doing that role a lot recently, and I really like that play. So think about it here. With about 20 seconds left, Chicago didn't have spawns for P3, nor did they have spawns for P4. And it looks like they're about to enter P5, which, if you're talking about dominant hardpoints, the money hills on this map, P5 is it, right? It's the most important hill on this map, just because there's only a few choke points that you can actually enter P5 from. So with them not getting P3, not getting P4 spawns, now that they have P5, they're really set up to take a pretty commanding lead here at the end of P5. Minimap we'll bring up here in a second, just because I want to make sure that we're talking about those routes. But SCUMP's doing a nice job of holding down this bottom part of the map. You can see that they're pushed out. I don't know if that's RCs or if it's formal. I can't quite see who it is, but there's only two routes, and this is another pinch from SCUMP. Let me go ahead, let me pause this again, because SCUMP's been doing a lot of this. So now we're at P5, right? We're down here on the bottom side of the map, and we just saw somebody getting kills. I don't know if it was RCDs or formal, but one of them were getting kills up here, because if you are Toronto, you have to push from either this lane, or you could be going mid-map, but they haven't been doing that, right? That's where SCUMP was. SCUMP was just sitting kind of up here by P2 in Cave East. He was watching this choke point here, and if nobody comes, then he just performs another one of those pinch routes. He goes up by Stonewall here, then as soon as they get through, he gets kills here, and he pinches them from behind. So this is something that if you're an amateur out there, if you're a team that's trying to get better, this is something that you want to make sure that you're doing, right? Because essentially they're free kills. The enemy team is going to be looking towards the hill, so if he can push forward, then he can get those kills and he can capitalize, and this team can really max out that time. Now, another pretty high level strategy here that you don't really see in a lot of AM games, you're seeing SCUMP over here in Silo. You might be thinking, why would he be in Silo? Let me explain this also. Sorry for pausing it so much. I know you guys like when I pause it, but I just want to make sure that we're covering all this stuff. We're in P5, right? So as it's about to rotate from P1, Chicago's going to have this spawn here. So as they try to approach P1, it's basically an even ground, right? There's going to be a lot of contesting that happens in this area of the map, because Toronto's going to have this spawn, so they're going to be entering P1. They'll probably send somebody over through P3 trying to pinch from this side. But you can see how everything happens right in the middle of the map, right? Well, let's go ahead. Let's take this away. As we're about to rotate to P1, you see that SCUMP has pushed through from that top wall. He pushed over, and now he's in Silo. As he's in Silo, what does that do? As he was pushing forward here, Toronto had this spawn, and as they have this spawn, now they can't spawn there because SCUMP is pushed up. So that forces him up over towards P4. So now Toronto has to spawn over by P4. So when they try to approach P1, it's a lot harder, right? Because they only have this one little area to come through from. So that's what they were doing there, is SCUMP's pushing up, just trying to get the spawns from the enemy team out a little bit. Really nice job. You can see, again, he pinched from behind. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any ammo. Oh, he did get a kill there. Kind of a nice kill there. But that's what he was originally trying to do. He ended up pinching, which just kind of took them out of this choke point. right? Because if you're Toronto, then you push up to yellow, and now all of a sudden you're not allowing, kind of the same thing that we did from P2 to P3, you're not allowing Chicago out of their spawn. So from him pinching there, it allows them to kind of control spawns, even though he gave it up. It allowed them to pinch from behind, so them pinching from behind enabled Chicago to get out of their spawns, and now they're getting a ton of this time inside of P1, and they have spawns as it's about to rotate to P2. So with all that out of the way, I know we just talked about a ton of different strats here. I'm going to go ahead. The best thing about scrims is that we can go ahead, we can turn up the volume. So I'm going to turn up the team comms. I'm still going to interrupt where I feel like I really want to break something down and point something out. But with that, let's turn it up and let's listen in to Chicago's team comms.
Back here. You're past me. Someone get time? They should have got time. Stone one shot. Yeah, they spawned in that.
Yeah, one of them rotated there earlier.
Come in front. One
top stand.
I'm a truck, I think. I'm holding Tim back.
So I'm not saying, just real quick, I'm not saying that opportunity is over, because they could still push into P2 and get Toronto kind of in a spawn trap back where they're currently spawning. Looks like that's what's happening right now. But had they been able to hold on to that spawn and get pushed out, they really could have taken a giant lead here. So I'm not saying that they can't do that anyways, but it looks like they're probably going to end up giving that up.
I'm holding cave. White truck, weak. I have the cave cross.
I'm P5.
Nothing's gotten through. Is there a middle cut open, guys? No, I have it. I will.
With 7 seconds left, now I just want to point out, you're seeing the exact opposite of that strategy that we talked about on the previous set of rotations, right? Now Chicago's pushed up, and they're trying to spawn kill Toronto as they exit from P2. So they haven't really, it doesn't seem that they've been super successful at it, but we'll just, we'll listen in here.
I'm watching your right push.
Bottom blue, weak.
Right.
Yo, one stone.
Close left.
Two top broken.
Top right, Nick, weak.
One's pinching. I don't see Silo.
Nick's top broken, 1 to P1. P1 weak. I'm playing this whole time.
Another one top. Their side hill, to their side.
I'm pinching.
Close side.
One
more top. I'm pinch. I'm not pinching anymore.
Vance is still weak. You know, big gun. Good job, guys. I'm rotating.
I'm dead. One more time. Gun. Nice.
I can help you a new dome here.
Fuck. I should go hill.
What do you have, Hill? Metals on all. I'll get your left. I have your left.
Behind the gun. 1 bullet. Metals.
Is he still behind? Sit across table, Cammy. Two left. Left again. Left, one side, left.
I'm pinched. Dead. We're looking for metals. Nice. Preston, you can pinch. I'm flooding.
I'm watching it short.
There's three there. They're gonna be
hitting left.
Just real quick, when Scump right there just said, Preston, you can pinch, that just means go through mid cave and hit them from behind. When Scump said he's flooding, that just means that he's entering the hill. So just a little bit of terminology there that we want to make sure that we go over.
Back's dead.
Oh, fuck, table, man.
Left side table or right side table?
We can know.
Got me.
Another one hill, weak. Close right,
yeah, close right out.
I'm helping you hold out. I'll
see him on top. To my left. Go on new. Yeah, that was a horrible sludge. You die? Yeah, it's all good.
We gotta be sending people front as well. We can hit sandbags too. We don't have to underpass.
I'm in yellow right now.
Now, again, this is almost the exact opposite as the first set of rotations. We're now seeing it from the other side of things. But now as we're rotating to P5, Pristini was pushed out, but there were 2 that he ran into inside of P5. So now as we're rotating out, Chicago's going to have to break this hard point. And this is a super tough hard point to break. So it looks like at the end of the second set of rotations, they're going to end up going into that second set of rotations without the lead, but we'll see what happens here. Let's listen back in.
Cave. Half metal.
Right side.
I'm holding yours.
Metal's dead. He's in the smoke.
Push past. Metal's dead. White truck. One shot behind the hill.
On the heady dead.
One shot behind the hill.
One more hill. Challenge.
I'm
Try and throw your shit front.
Cave already.
God damn it, dude. I'm trying to cave.
P1 already, Nick. Absolute P1. They could be through. Cave.
One more cave.
Yeah, can he be through? Oh, top
yellow. Top yellow, middle.
Cave dead.
Yellow middles. One shot yellow, middles.
Push through to yellow.
Top yellow plat.
Yellow plat? Dude. Yellow plat dead.
He's hitting stone.
What's cave? Top stone, I kicked down.
All right, so just to chime in just real quick, as we're going back into the third set of rotations back to P1, this is super important time for Chicago, right? Because if they can get cuts and get the majority of this time inside of P1, then as it rotates back to P2, now they have an opportunity to win. Whereas if they don't get this time and they don't have spawns for P2, then they're probably going to lose. So this is a really important moment here. You have to get time, but you also have to try to flip, because as it goes to P2, right now you're not set up to win this map. So let's go ahead. Let's see how they advance, how they navigate this third set of rotations here.
Guys, rotate back. Guys,
More silent.
Yeah, we are rotating.
Looks like somebody pushed through and got spawns. I don't know exactly who that is, but that's probably what sets them up to win this map.
Absolute bottom blue, Nick.
Run him back.
Got you.
Nick was bottom blue, smart. Top yellow dead. Another one bottom yellow. One shot bottom yellow and one's top yellow.
Just gotta watch your top.
They're going underpass.
Nice nade there from RCDs.
Hurry in the bag,
Top yellow.
I got one. Smoke it out. It's classic. You're looking for classic.
One underpass.
I'm trying to help the back.
One underpass.
They're all under. Three of them. I'm at
Underpass dead. Two more. I'm trying to help you, Hill.
Mating.
Close to Vance, dead. One more front.
Front neck, weak. I died hill.
dead under.
Underpass.
No one under.
And it seems with the last tick there, just like that. So really, I think it might have been Envoy. I saw that there were two people in front of Scump and one of them was RCDs, but whoever made that flank over through P5, that's what set them up to end up winning the game, right? They were able to flank through P5, get those back spawns for P2, and then as it rotated from P1 to P2, they were just never able to get back through, right? Toronto struggled to hit those choke points and get through and get time or contest inside of P2. Scump, as we look at the scoreboard here with a nice 40 bomb, 41 and 30. Looks like Prestini was also 34 and 33 somewhere, it looks like. Can't quite see that death number. Formal -2, RCD's +1, and Envoy +2. So in the slaying department, even if you look down below, Metals was -8 and Methods was -7. So there is a little bit of a disparity in the slaying department there, but overall, pretty close game throughout from top to bottom. So with that, guys, if you're new around here, I put out brand new videos like this covering the Call of Duty League every single day. If you like this content, please hit that subscribe button down below. If you guys have any comments on this one, let me know. I love going through, reading your comments, the interactions. Leave a like before you head on the way. It really helps out the channel. And with that, guys, thank you so much. I will catch you in tomorrow's upload.